Greetings and salutations. This is your host, Kimra Minuti, and welcome to another episode of Gaia Soars. This week, we have a very interesting episode. I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. It is based on what to do when you screw up. Okay? And I am simply going to preface it by saying that this is based on me totally screwing up. So it should be easy for you to relate, okay? Now, don't forget that Gaia Soars is a podcast about practical application of spirituality. So this should be extremely practical for you guys to enjoy and put into use immediately. So, here's the situation. I pre-record this podcast every week because I'm a mom and my child is on homeschool due to COVID, and I have to do mom stuff and wife stuff and work stuff during the day. So I don't I can't be available to focus on this at 10 o'clock in the morning when it's playing, because at 10 o'clock in the morning I'm doing like science or math or whatever with my daughter. So I pre-record this show. No big deal, right? Except for when your show doesn't show back up when you go to edit it. Not only that, parts of it are missing. All of it is missing. Sections are like chopped up. And so I went to go open up the show for today to load it and edit a little bit and add some music in the background, make it sound really, professional, right? So here I am, and I can't get my program to open the podcast, and I am freaking out. I'm like, what the fuck? So, full disclosure, because there's this misconception that if you're a spiritual person that you are, devoid of emotion, or you are so zen that you don't freak out about things. Well, that's not really true. Like, everybody has their issues. We just have personas and places that we are in when we do therapy for others that is geared to that and not about our personal crap. Um, so I freaked out, right? And I was like, oh my God, why the heck is this happening to me right now? And I defaulted to that position because I was a little tired and I was like, I can't believe this. And then in that moment, I got so frustrated, like I legit cried, and I was like, why am I so frustrated? I was like, am I crying really about this? And I was like, realistically, this is a podcast that I am speaking on. I had thoughts, I put them into my voice, and then I recorded them for you. So this is not like something that requires manual labor. Like, I don't have to beat anybody to like get it done. I don't need money for this. Like, I have all the stuff that I need. Like, why am I so extremely frustrated to the point of like crying, excuse me, over my podcast not being loaded and stuff, right? So I was like, oh my God. So I looked at myself in the mirror with like tears leaking down my face, like my cheeks are red, and I paid attention to my breath pattern, and I realized that in that moment, I was like full on not breathing. Every muscle in my body was clenched. My body posture was like tucked in. My elbows were tucked in tight. My hips were tense and tucked in tight. My knees were like tucked in tight. And I was just like, wow. I was like, I am so far away from how my inner being is viewing this situation right now. And so I said to myself, Kimra, breathe. Breathe. And so I did. I've been looking at breath work now for about 4 years because I realized that I have never been able to breathe properly in terms of unfettered breath patterns with no sort of like hiccups or strange trauma patterns, because trauma creates breathing patterns, pain creates breathing patterns that don't allow uh, the full expression and exposure of your lung capacity. And if you don't untrain yourself from that, you will continue to have breathing issues unbeknownst to yourself, and then cause imbalances because you are adding to the acidity in your body by keeping levels of CO2 higher, right? So, and in the last few years, as I've been doing shadow work, I've come to the realization that I carried a lot of breathing patterns that were unhealthy. And so since 2016, I've made a focused effort to breathe better, to breathe more evenly, to breathe more purposefully, to breathe with more intention, and to breathe with more love. And so in the last week, I came into some exposure of someone who was teaching Qigong. His name is Scott Kruger, guys. You should check him out on YouTube. I'll post the link in magazine.today. You guys should check it out. It's definitely awesome. And, oh my gosh, side note. Actually, I'll put that in later, but magazine.tv has been birthed, so we'll be having some cool links up on there. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So back to breath work. The point being is that breath work is extremely important because it helps you connect with all the cells in your body in a manner that is nourishing. And if you listen to Scott's YouTube video, he goes into that in great detail, and it's a really good explanation. But this is something that I can understand, and which is why I am really wanting to explore breath work in this more channeled measure, which Qigong relates to breath work and energy flow and movement. So yoga has that sort of same principle in it: movement followed by intention followed by breath, or vice versa, whatever the flow is. So this is a commonality, a core concept and practice that is extremely important in heightening your intuition. The better that you can breathe, the better that you can get toxins out of your body, you can attain cellular stability, and you can flush your body of emotions that do not benefit you and the corresponding hormonal reactions that come from it. Okay, so that's super important. And one of the reasons this is coming up so much right now is because Venus is in Gemini. And those of you who don't study astrology, the beginning of this premise and this whole situation, the situation was is that I had this whole beautiful podcast. Well, you must be wondering, what was this beautiful podcast about, Kimra? Well, it was about astrology. It was this whole thing on be prepared on these dates that are coming up because of the astrology that is doing XYZ. It's, if you don't mark your calendars, you're not paying attention, it's going to screw you up. Okay, boom. What happens? I marked my calendar, I wrote the podcast, I got prepared, and it still screwed me up. Hashtag jokes on me. Okay, but fine. So no big deal. So the importance of breath work and the sign of Gemini is that Gemini is a mutable sign. It's a malleable, kind of fluid and flexible sign. And so the beauty of it being flexible is that it lends itself to changing direction when something doesn't go your way. Okay? My moon sign is in Gemini, and the moon rules your emotions and how you think about things and how you feel about things. So for me, I change the way I feel and think about things very quickly because I don't really like to dwell. Gemini is an air sign, so it deals with your ability to breathe, and it deals with your hands, and it deals with intellect and communication, and how you relate to people, being a social butterfly and social relationships with the collective. Okay, so that's part of why I was like, you know what, let me just change the whole podcast. It's fucking fine. I'm not gonna sit here and dwell on it. Um, right now, as I'm recording this, it's like 4:45 in the morning, and I have to be up with my daughter at 7 a.m. for homeschool. So I'm not going to sleep. Like it's fine. But to say that you have to be aware of what is happening with the flow of energy. So maybe you don't resonate with astrology, so to speak, per se, right? Well, that's fine. But it's good to know the hallmarks of things so that if something does happen in your life, then you can just kind of quickly reference it and go, oh, cool. Must have been that related to that. So that way I don't have to internalize this. I can just be like, all right, there was something happening at this point in time that could have influenced me. I played into it. No big deal. Boom. Let it rock. Okay. So I redid the podcast. That's what we're doing right now. I'm talking to you guys about how to get over being in a position of extreme frustration and emotional angst. How do you come back from that? How do you rebound from being so upset? Okay? Because I was legitimately just like, crying. Like crying and just out of frustration and anger at myself and the computer and the program, and like that is like so unnecessary, but I had to just do the process. Because remember, whenever something you don't want happens to you, the depth of the degree of your frustration or the degree of the intensity of the emotion is what is going to explain to you the degree of the intensity of the desire, right? So I was so enraged about the podcast not being properly in place and not being able to access it because I had poured a lot of effort and time and love into it. I was so enraged because of how important this podcast is to me. It's super important to me that I share these insights and channels with you guys so that you are able to then utilize them for yourself and find greater ease in your own life. Okay, I find that to be of epic proportion and importance to me. Okay, so screwing up the podcast set me off. Now, flip side of that, right? What do we do? So I wrote out a process for you guys to understand what I actually do when I fuck up. Because, to be honest, I have perfected the art of failing forward. My chart has a lot of indecisiveness in it, so I make a lot of rash decisions, or I used to. I used to make a lot of rash decisions and then have to like eat the consequences of it. And those of you who know what Aries is like, that it can be kind of rough. Um, so I wrote a process for you guys today, and I do have a tarot card reading available because as soon as I realized that I was going to have to potentially redo the podcast, I took 7 deep breaths, like super deep breaths, and then I shuffled the cards once, and then I shuffled them, like jived them out a little bit, and then I did a real quick 7 card spread. Now, for me, my numerology, my life path is the number 7. So if you ever have dealings with me, you'll notice that 7s pop up a lot. And I tend to do my readings in 7s because that is like a complete language for me. It's like every card is like a day of the week. And so by the time we hit number 7, we finish the week and it's time to start over. So it's easy for me to interpret cards. So we do have a reading this week, and we're going to take a quick break and do some station announcements. I want you guys to know that Gaia Soars is on every week from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. on Tuesday Eastern Standard Time, and 7 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's on Wednesday at midnight in Australia, from midnight to 1:30. And then we have replays of the show on Fridays and Saturdays in America from 3:30 to 5 p.m. on Fridays and Saturday afternoons. And that's Eastern Standard Time. And in in the Pacific, it's 12:30 to, gosh, I always screw this up. It's 12:30 to 2. My gosh. You would think that'd be easy for me, but for some reason I can't manage time. 12:30 to 2 p.m. in the Pacific Coast, and then Pacific Standard Time. My God, Pacific Coast. What am I saying? Pacific Standard Time, and then in Australia, it's going to be on Saturdays and Sundays from 5:30 a.m. to 7 a.m. or something like that. Now, there is a schedule on magazine.airtime.pro, so check that out. Remember, every week you can get your fresh new episode of Gaia Soars on Tuesday/Wednesday, and then the repeats will be on the weekend. Now, on my YouTube channel is Off Duty with Minuti. Okay, that's Off Duty with Minuty, Minuti. You can catch any of the podcast replays that I have already done on my YouTube channel. So the format will be fresh content here on Magazine Radio, and then the following week you will have that content on my YouTube channel. So please subscribe, like, comment, and share. I want to hear from you. You can go to magazine.today, and you can read the corresponding blog articles that will come out related to this podcast. So everything that I talk about in this podcast, well, not everything. I'm not even going to lie to you guys like that. Not everything that happens in this podcast will be in the blogs, but there will be links to a great majority of the things that I talk about in the blogs. And there's actually going to be stuff in the blogs that is not maybe even in the podcast, because it'll just be random articles that I think are related to what's going on right now, in addition to corresponding articles related to the podcast. So now, this is the point in time where I can explain to you guys, well, not explain to you guys, but just tell you about a new and exciting opportunity that we have, which is magazine.tv. Magazine.tv. Super cool. We now have magazine.tv, which is a place where we will be showcasing different links and video opportunities that may or may not be relevant to what's going on out and about in the collective consciousness, or stuff that we may reference in the podcast, like Mike Puskas and I and Ricky Buckingham do a show called The Seventh Sense on Saturday and Sunday in Australia. And The Seventh Sense does a lot of spiritual conversation on what's happening in the collective consciousness from a perspective of the astrology and lots of different other perspectives. And so Seventh Sense is another great show that you could check out here on Magazine Radio. So you can check that out. We also have Twin Peaks What Lies Beneath, Twin Peaks The Mirror, Millennial Activations, Mike and Mike on the Mic, which is a really funny show. Like, I love listening to Mike and Mike on the Mic. They're hilarious. So, guys, check out our schedule, check out the playlist, see what we've got going on, subscribe, support, share, like, comment. Tell us what you want to hear. Tell us what is in your hearts. What do you need more of? We are here to support you. The purpose of this station is really to enrich humanity in the way that we best can by teaching you all what we have learned through our own trials and tribulations and our experiences. So I hope you guys truly enjoyed the interview that I did last week with light worker, life coach, and just loving soul extraordinaire. I just love her to death. And I'll have more interviews with people like her coming up. Okay, guys? Awesome. Let's take a break. I would like to play a song for you. It's going to be a mystery song, so stay tuned for the mystery song. Dum dum dum. Timing. Always allow love and don't forget to share your wisdom. Explore new possibilities. Remember that you are understood. And every time you do this with us, you already know what to do. So that is the kind of sentence that I read when I get a reading from this type of oracle deck. Now, none of the in-between words are there, but if you go to magazine.today, I will have pictures of this oracle card reading up so that you can see the cards. They're really beautiful, but the first card that we pulled was health. Okay. And health has the numerology of the number 26, which reduces down to the angel number 8. Okay, so health card states, the angels bring you this card because they have a message for you regarding health. This can be about yourself or someone close to you or the collective. Health refers to not only physical but also emotional and spiritual wellness. When this card is pulled, it's a sign to make sure you're not owning or identifying with any health condition. Detach from the condition and see it as separate from who you are and as a phase in your life that will quickly be over. Archangel Raphael is working with you when you see this card, so call upon him and his magnificent green light to aid with health and healing. This card can also be a sign that you're a healer, since indigos are born with powerful energy and abilities in this arena. This may be an indication that you should confidently move forward with your healing training and work. Awesome. So, what does this mean for you and the collective? It means that many people are being called to heal themselves so that they can affect a change, right? Didn't we just say that? You need to heal what it is that is limiting you from stepping into your power and speaking your truth. So, what can you do? Let's call on Archangel Raphael to help us draw greater healing into our lives, into our bodies, and into our souls, right? So let's take some soothing deep breaths, okay? Just put yourself in a comfortable position, preferably in an aligned position, so that everything is flowing freely through your body. We're going to take a deep breath in. We're going to do a practice that I call infinity breathing, okay? I want you to take a deep breath in. Breathe in through your nose for 4 counts. Hold for 4 counts. and exhale for 4 counts. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Pause, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so now you've done this beautiful inhale and you've countered and you've breathed and you've asked Archangel Raphael to enter into this space, and you're imagining this beautiful green light. It's this beautiful green, verdant, lush, earthy green light that is just filling you up. It's a nurturing, bountiful, never-ending, overflowing, abundant greenery that is just nourishing, and loving you on such a deep, and intrinsic level. When you're bathed in this beautiful green light, you feel it pouring out of you from your heart center, okay? So put your hands over your heart and repeat after me. Archangel Raphael, thank you. Thank you for your presence in my heart. Thank you for your presence in my body. Thank you for your presence in my home and in my community. Bring healing to all of the cells in my body. Clear, cleanse, and open me up to allow the love of the Source God oneness to pour into me and flush out the remains of the trauma that doesn't serve me any longer. Help me to be aware of your presence as I encounter items that are not in alignment with my highest good. I call on you to walk with me as I heal myself, thereby healing others. Help me to interact with others with the healing love of abundance and prosperity and heart-centered courage. I thank you for filling my presence with this abundant greenery and overflowing my heart space with joy, wholeness, calm, never-ending health, and love. Thank you. Forgive me if I thought it was okay to gain attention from being sick. I don't need to do that anymore. I don't need to be sick in order to feel loved. I don't need to be sick in order to feel validated. I don't need to be sick in order for people to take me seriously. I can be healthy without needing or losing any of the things that are so important to me. I can receive love, attention, recognition, joy, balance, and peace in my health. Anything that I received while I was sick, I can get it in health 10 times fold. And so I am so grateful to take this time to bring you into my life. Archangel Raphael, thank you so much. Hear my prayer. So mote it be. Amen. So, that was just a little run down the health walk. Now, I really thought it was important to address the victimization principle in being ill. And I'm saying this cautiously because I am a person who has been extremely ill in my life. I spent 2 years on disability with a pretty wretched car accident. Prior to that, I had spent almost 15 years with different emotional disorders and eating disorders to a lesser degree because I was eating emotionally. And in addition to that, infertility related to endometriosis, sexual trauma. I had a lot of emotional things going on that kept me with very poor health, in and out of doctors with chronic dysfunctional pain issues, low back pain, multiple car accidents, just so many traumatic emotional and physical and spiritual injuries. And so I don't want to downplay the illnesses that we attract to ourselves. And I want you to understand that you do attract the illnesses that you have on you. And that was hard for me to understand because I was a person who was sick my entire life. Like legit, I was born with asthma. So I have struggled with Gemini, right? The lungs are controlled by Gemini, breathing, communication, and asthma energetically is about criticism, feeling criticized, feeling enclosed, feeling that you're not able to express yourself, that you're going to be reprimanded for expressing yourself, not being supported in self-expression, right? So breathing. So of course, with that sort of situation, I got asthma, right? So I started from birth with this sort of pattern of illness and sickliness and trauma and whatever. So to grow up to an adult, and I'm used to going to doctors and stuff, and then realizing that I was going to the doctors and I was getting like more and more sick, not better. I was getting more diagnoses, not less, more pills, not less. Like I was never going to get better, to come full circle to now where like I don't really take any medication unless it's like something severe, or I have to go to the hospital if it's something severe, but I mainly do different types of holistic remedies and spiritual remedies and applied scientific remedies to deal with what is happening in my body, right? So um so the concept of victimization in illness, sometimes we have this underlying conversation in our subconscious that's like, well, if I get better, then I'll never be able to rest. If I get better, no one will be able to let me off the hook. If I get better, then I won't be able to womp. And it's about boundaries that you yourself haven't really set that are healthy to allow you to be healthy. Does that make sense? Because if you weren't afraid of, say, being let off the hook, let's use that. If you weren't, oh, if I'm not sick, then I won't ever be let off the hook. Well, the reason you won't ever be let off the hook is because you give too much of yourself. So then you need to be sick so that you can be let off the hook, so you can actually take good care of yourself, right? So it's a very convoluted mix of energies and emotions that will come to characterize the behavioral pattern and attraction pattern of the energy that is an illness, especially when you've carried it the majority of your life. It's difficult to separate yourself from that. A lot of people, their illness is their identity, just like for a lot of people, their job is their identity. So you are not your illness, you are not your trauma, you are not your job. You are an individual, divine being in a physical body with a divine purpose and gift that you are here to share with others. But you cannot share that gift if you are afraid to do so because of these limiting beliefs and kinks in your energetic comprehension. Is the best way I can think of it. Because if you were born in the 80s or the 70s even, like, nobody taught you this shit. Nobody taught you that you were supposed to have like emotional awareness and how to deal with, how to process your emotions and stuff like that. Nobody talked about that kind of stuff, um so let's talk about the next card real quick. Okay, so the next card that we have is the divine divine timing card. Okay, divine timing is something that frustrates the heck out of human beings. Frustrates the heck out of us. Reason being that you want everything right now. If not right now, you want it yesterday. Like, I wanted things like 30 seconds ago and it's not there and I'm pissed off, right? So we're highly impatient due to the finite nature of our lifespans, which in the grand scheme of the universe is a blink of an eye, right? So we have attention spans like a blink. So, divine timing. This card means that the resolution of the situation you're inquiring about is delayed by much more than mere circumstance. Divine timing means that nothing can happen before the dynamics of your life are completely ready for it. Many factors are involved in divine timing, including other people's free will choices. If your wish is fulfilled at the wrong time, the conditions won't be right and the manifestation won't be lasting or permanent. Trust in the divine order of things and know that you're on the right path toward the fulfillment of your wishes and your indigo mission. Keep your faith strong and be open to intuitive guidance that calls you to action. One step at a time, all of your prayers are heard and answered exactly when they're supposed to be. Well, that's divine timing for you. And to be honest, divine timing is super important to pay attention to, because when you're in the correct flow and momentum of your purpose and your gift, divine timing speeds up. That's one. Number two, the amount of things that you can accomplish when you are in accordance with divine timing increases exponentially. Right? So for 6 months, I wanted to start this podcast, but I was like, "Meh, meh, meh. I don't know what I talk about. I don't know how I do it. I don't know, blah, 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 blah," like all these excuses, right? And I thought that I was just procrastinating, or I wasn't smart enough, or whatever. Like, I just was like, why can't I get this stupid podcast done? Like, I should totally be able to do a podcast, but it wasn't happening, right? I'm all like trying not to beat myself up about it, but like hashtag in the background going like, what the heck? So then one day I did one thing that led to another thing that led to another thing, and boom, all of a sudden I was on podcasts. And I was like, oh, that was easy. Right. It was easy because it was the correct timing for it. It was the divine timing for the flow of the podcast to happen. All the times prior to that, I did not have the dynamics in play and in position to proceed accordingly, right? So now remember at the beginning of the podcast today, we're talking about how I'm like all excited about my pre-done, like well researched, well rounded, like organized podcast that I had for you guys prior to this one. And that was like out the window, thrown to naught, right? And here we go with the very second card in my reading that was like ding, 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 reminder, divine timing. Always have faith in your guides. Always have faith in something not going wrong. I mean, not going right, excuse me. So, too often we get wrapped up in things not going the way we wanted them to go. Well, sometimes you don't know best. Sometimes you think you know what you want, and then when you get it, you're like, I didn't want that at all. So, when things don't happen for you, like, just be like, yay, I dodged a bullet. Like, I almost fucked myself up. Thank goodness I didn't. Like you have to take it with a grain of salt. So, like, I already know that this podcast that I'm doing for you guys right now is way better than the first one that I did, even though the first one that I did was really good. It was really good. It was chock full of information. But it was information that other people were already kind of talking about, and it didn't have the authentic spin and viewpoint that I'm giving you guys. So, you know, shit happens. And then you plant something beautiful out of it. Now, our third card is called Allow Love. And I love that we have the Allow Love card because Venus in retrograde is really all about allowing love. Allowing yourself to feel love, to receive love, to enjoy new love, open up avenues in old love. Like, there's so much stuff going on where you desperately need to allow love, especially now. So, the card says, allow love. Sometimes it's difficult for indigos to see that those around them, especially those in an authority role, actually do love them. When rules are imposed upon them, when they face disciplinary action, and when the ones close to them get upset, they often feel rejected. It is your role as an indigo to question rules and to ask why. When situations seem unfair, this will never change. This card invites you to see that although things feel unjust, people are only lovingly looking out for your best interests. In order for you to live and succeed in society, certain rules must always be followed. When the people in your life correct your behavior, sometimes it's because they love you and want the best for you. If you sit and meditate, you'll know whether this is true for your present situation. Your role in this world will be shown to you clearly. Your job now is to make sure you do what is asked in order to be a productive member of society, the same society you are meant to recreate. Yay! So, you are meant to recreate this new society, and it's really important that you take advantage of it in the next 5 months, because with Venus going into retrograde in Gemini and then going direct in Gemini and then going retrograde in Gemini again, you are in a great place to envision a beautiful new world. Gemini is exalted almost. I wouldn't want to say exalted because that's kind of like an astrological sign, but Gemini and Venus get along really well. They get along because the astrological or the tarot card for Gemini is the Lovers, and Venus is all about love and relationships and feeling good. So just think about like the summer being like the summer of love, where you're going to be like total hipster, flashback to the 70s and Woodstock and everybody loving each other. But you also have to remember we're going to have I think it's Pluto is in retrograde right now, so there is an element of like delusion and hidden truths to that love. Okay, so it may be short lived. Don't break up with anybody that you're already with right now. Don't jump into something new with anybody that you're with right now, because that may not last too long. What you're supposed to focus on is self love. You're supposed to focus on you and what is nourishing you the most, so that you can then go out and recreate that self love out in humanity. Super, super important task. I'll say it once and I'll say it a million times, and I'll probably say it on every episode until I stop doing episodes. But if you heal yourself, you heal the world. Period. As long as you're raising your vibration, you are then affecting others and raising their vibration also by simply being. By simply being someone who is focused on raising their vibration, you affect others to want to do so. It is your goal to just model it. You don't have to tell people it's time to wake up. You just walk in an awakened state. And when you're in an awakened state, you affect the ability of others to become more awake. Because then they look at you like, what is she doing? Or what is he doing? Like, why aren't they... Meh. There's very much a difference between an awakened being and an unawakened being. And I'm not saying it in terms of like, I'm better than you or you're better than me. It's just about frequency and joy and harmony. Someone who is more awake is more harmonious, because they are trying to integrate themselves into the source prospect or source presence, their I am presence, their higher divine self. So, we are going to do another mystery track. My name is Kimmer Minuti. You are listening to Gaia Soars. This is Magazine Radio. It is always a pleasure and a blessing to chat with you. And if you want to leave me a message, go to the live chat window on magazine.today, or you can send us an email, or you can follow us on YouTube or any of these other wonderful things. Check out some of the cool videos we have linked here on magazine.tv. Subscribe, like, share, and comment. Back after our mystery track.
You're tuned in to magazine.today.
We're back. That was My Always Mood by Broke for Free from the Directionless EP album. I love that track. This is Kimra Minuti, and you are listening to Gaia Soars here on Magazine Radio. Now, back for our final segment of the podcast where we will wrap up and finish our tarot reading. So, this week we have a 7-card tarot spread, and the 4th card is Share Your Wisdom. Within you is an ancient and powerful wisdom about the true rules of right and wrong. As an indigo, you came to this planet to make big changes, and you're not alone in this mission. As you learn more about the changes that should be made to society, this card guides you to share this awareness with like-minded others. The more indigos who know their true purpose, because people like you awaken them to it, the more effective the collective mission will be. So, that makes perfect sense to me and is very much along the vein of what I've been hearing other respected light workers in the community speak on. People like Magenta Pixie and Phil Good and Steve Nobel. All of these individuals are talking right now about understanding our unity in our mission to bring more light to the planet, to bring more love to the planet, to shift the vibration to a higher level of consciousness. So by actively participating in doing that, you are part of the mission. So the next card that we are dealing with is the Explore card. I love this card because whenever you feel like you're trapped, it's always great to explore different avenues to accomplish things so that you don't get that split energy of feeling trapped. And the Explore card is a master number. It's master number 22, which also has to do with the practical application of accomplishing a goal. Okay, so this card asks you to experiment with your approach to the situation you're inquiring about. Your powerful indigo energy will work for you instead of against you if you shift your mood and energy. This card also asks you to be open-minded when thinking about your place in this world. If you feel guided to go in a certain direction in life, then give it a try. And remember that there's nothing wrong with changing your mind or the course of your life. Opinions change as knowledge broadens. Yeah, don't be afraid to change right now, guys. In fact, if anything, the transits that we're having this year are going to force change upon you if you don't embrace it. So in an effort to make your life easier, just embrace the change that is coming, lean into shifting into it, figure out ways to make it easier for yourself so that you can change. And if you know that change has not been your forte in the past, pray and ask for it to be easier for you to change. Just be like, hey, universe, I know that in the past I used to like to let go. I used to like to get stuck in things. I wanted to hold on to everything and grudges and burdens and people and things that didn't serve me. But right now I'm ready to change. I want to be ready to change and be easy with any of the new changes coming to me. That way I'll be able to allow more love into my life and step into my power. So now our next card is You Are Understood. I feel that this is a very important message to speak to all indigo, starseed, Blu-ray, light worker, highly sensitive people, empaths, shamans, all of that. Reiki healer, tarot healers, spiritual entrepreneurs, whatever. If you're listening to this podcast, you probably fall under that category. What I want you to understand is you are understood. The angels send you this card because every aspect of your personality and existence makes perfect sense to them. As an indigo, you may feel flawed or that you've made mistakes. This card reminds you that nothing is a mistake. Everything is a divine appointment. Know that heaven and the angels see you as a perfect being, and they have been with you every step of your life. They know who you are, and they see your divine perfection. The angels completely understand why you've made every decision you have made. Allow yourself to revel in the comfort of knowing that there's a force much bigger than any human on this planet, and this force sees you as a flawless soul doing the best you can. Doesn't that feel so relaxing and relieving to hear that? I know that for the most part, I've always felt misunderstood, and it seems to be the hallmark of indigo, Blu-ray, and starseed individuals that we tend to feel alone and misunderstood. And so I find that card to be extremely comforting, specifically to my experience, because I know that I'm always struggling for people to understand me, and I wish that I could communicate more clearly for them to understand me better. But then again, now that I realize that people can only understand me from the perspective of their trauma or their vibration, now I don't worry about it so much. I am happier to be understood by my higher self and my spirit guides than I am seeking for understanding from my human counterparts. And in doing so, I have less stress, like 1,000-fold, to be honest. So, the last card of this reading is one that I kind of love to hate because it's almost a slap in the face, because it's like, haha, my spirit guides are like, we told you so. And I'm like, you totally told me, but I was playing small and I wasn't ready. And so here we go again. So the last card, the last card says, you already know. Dang it. You already know. This card, ironically, comes to you when the answer is something you already know, but are denying or require confirmation of. In this circumstance, the angels are saying that you have the answer and you also know exactly what to do to move forward. This card asks you to trust in yourself and the divine order of the universe and do what's best for you. Only good can come from listening to your guidance, and only good can come from trusting your own intuition. I can 100% say that ever since I started trusting my intuition and living a life of faith, that I have seen a turnaround in my life, 100% change and shift in my life. 2 years ago, I was physically unable to bend over, pick things up, walk for more than a few minutes, cook my own food. I was extremely depressed and in pain, and I wanted a different way. And now, just a short 2 years later, I'm bike riding, I'm walking, I'm cooking food for myself. I can get down on my hands and knees and pick things up off the floor and on the back of shelves and stuff. These are major accomplishments for me, dealing with the sort of pain and accidents and physical trauma that I've dealt with in my life. And so you already know what you're supposed to do. you're just pretending you don't. And now is not the time to do that. Now is the time to fully step into who you are and what you're doing. And so I want you guys to know that I'm going to be offering some courses online here shortly. I'm taking a course right now on how to build an online course, and I'm really excited about it so that I can share with you folks some more practical ways to deal with what is happening in your life. And also, if you go to my Facebook page, you can schedule a one-on-one intuitive reading or one-on-one intuitive tarot reading with me via the Book Now button on my Silver Lining Spirals Facebook page. So head over to Facebook and book yourself a session, and we can do a one-on-one. Now, I did say that I was going to share with you this process that I wrote down about how to deal with something after you have screwed up and you're like so pissed off with yourself and you need to get back and accomplish a goal, right? Because you can't spend all day being mad. That's a real waste of time. Like, ain't nobody got time for that. We have things to do. So, this is what I basically came up with. Once you get angry, upset, hurt, whatever the emotion is, whether it's negative, whatever the strong emotion is, you're going to take a deep breath. For me, because my life path number is 7, I usually take 7 deep breaths to center myself, but you may need less, you may need more. Take as many breaths as you need as to allow you to step away from the emotion and take the time to acknowledge the emotion. Why is it important to acknowledge the emotion? Because when you acknowledge the emotion while it's happening, then you keep it from basically attaching to you so that it can be recycled later, right? So if you are able to catch yourself in the midst of creating basically a pattern, you'll just be like, oh, seem very angry here. Seems to be disproportionate to what's going on. Must be some underlying trigger situation. Let me just acknowledge my emotion and honor that I'm feeling this way. Honor my emotion. And then I'll sit there and I'll honor the emotion. I'll breathe through it and I'll sit there and just keep breathing until I feel the emotion kind of untangling itself from my solar plexus. Because usually when I deal with anger, it's like in the center of my body, around my stomach, around my belly area, and so I'll let that feeling loosen, and then I will literally pack my body with crystals. So earlier when this happened to me, I put lapis lazuli. I had a tumbled lapis lazuli. I put that in my belly button. I had a large chunk of blue kyanite that I pretty much never leave home without. Had that on me. I grabbed a big chunk of citrine because I just needed backup, and a chunk of black tourmaline. Those are all the stones that I grabbed to recenter myself after this situation. So once I pack my body full of crystals, then I'm going to do more breathing, and in the process of me doing all of these motions, I'm calming down. Okay, now while I was doing all of these things that I'm telling you guys to do, I also took the time to like go draw some cards and gain some wisdom, right? So I packed my body with crystals, I breathed some more, I realized that I'm not seeing this from the perspective of my higher divine self, and then I'll take the moment and ask myself, okay, well, if I'm not seeing this clearly from the perspective of my higher divine self, what does my higher divine self see? And then always in that moment, I realize that I'm standing in the place of the problem and my divine self is standing in the place of the solution. And so I'm shifting my perspective to the place of the solution. So as I'm thinking about these things, I'm saging myself, I'm breathing again, and I'm focusing on what my higher divine self would be focused on. So my higher divine self is focused on getting me where I really want to go, which is my desires. So I'm focused there. I'm analyzing what is it that triggered me? What was the underlying bad thing? I'm saging, I'm breathing. I have a medical marijuana license, so I smoke medical marijuana also when I have these situations so that I can deal with the release of the hormones that cause my body to exhibit fibromyalgia-like symptoms. Okay, so when I get angry, my whole body starts to cramp up and I get like flu-like body aches if I get angry. So one of the things that you do while you're saging and smoking and breathing is you analyze what triggered you, you release it, you focus on the solution, and then you call in your guides and your higher self and be like, hey, whew, I just got carried away by a wave of emotion there. Could you please, my higher self, my divine I am self, my source self, God, the universe, source, my spirit guides, my celestial posse, all of the people who love me, everybody who's here in alignment with my highest good, could you please help me to find my way to this solution since I have splintered myself away from it? And then I will release the negative emotion. I'll release it. I'll be like, you know what? I want to thank that emotion that was so strong and so intense. I want to thank it for showing me where I need to focus. It showed me that I was in a place that I didn't want to be and I was missing where I wanted to be. But if I hadn't had such a strong reaction, I would have never even looked there. I would have never even looked there. And so as you're doing this process for yourself and you're talking to yourself, you're able to release that initial emotion with love and forgiveness and appreciation because it brought you to a new and beneficial conclusion that you actually needed. And so then you can embrace the new solution and move forward in love. That's it. That's the process. And that's a process that I do constantly for everything whenever I remember to do it. And I don't normally obviously have it tallied and written down like this in a sequential format for myself. When I wrote this out originally, it was like a scribble scrabble and a bunch of different arrows pointing in the most backwards flowchart because I'm an artist, so I don't really think in straight lines. I think kind of like in a tangled yarn mess, really, but it works out. No big deal. So that's what I wanted to share with you this week on Gaia Soars, because even the best laid plans can be ruined in an instant. And it's not about the plans being ruined, it's about what you do after the fact. It's about how you play the game. Are you going to stay down on the ground and let them kick you? Are you going to get up and fight for yourself? Are you going to get up and say, no, I got this? Are you going to get up and be like, I don't care if I screwed that up. I still got to do this thing, and I'm going to get up and frickin' do it. And that's what I want you to focus on. I want you to recognize that you are a resilient energy warrior. One of the things that I've noticed when I speak with people who have traumatic sexual histories is that they are identifying with what was done with them, and so they don't feel like they have any strength. And that is such a horrible lie that is told to you because someone did something terrible to you. Someone who has survived any sort of trauma, whether it be sexual abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse, drug abuse, alcohol abuse, if you have survived it and you are still breathing and you are maintaining yourself and you're not hurting other people, you are a resilient and beautiful example of what courage and love can be. You just have to accept that love back into your life so that you can really embody it and be a strong warrior and not a victim. And so that's basically everything that I wanted to share with you guys this week. Thank you for joining me on Gaia Soars here on Magazine Radio. Please check out some of the other shows that we have on the station. Check out magazine.tv. We are so excited to be sharing that with you. Check out magazine.today for the blog posts and pictures of this week's tarot reading. And also head over to Off Duty with Minuti on YouTube if you'd like to hear episodes 1, 2, and 3 of Gaia Soars. My name is Kimra Minuti. You're listening to Gaia Soars here on Magazine Radio. Thank you for joining us. Blessings, light, and love to all of you in your journey this week. And just remember, you are understood, you are loved, and you are supported. Don't forget to reach out for help if you're feeling wonky, because it's normal to be feeling that way. And it's okay to ask for help, all right? Love you guys. Have a wonderful week.